Right, welcome back to the YouTube channel, Facebook page, whatever it is that you're watching this on, or welcome back to AT Motorsport and the dyno cell. It's been a really strange time for us all, and we are slowly starting to come back to having some staff here. Callum's back doing some, as you can see behind me, some work on this Golf R, which today is having our ultimate stage 1 package with a DSG tune. Now the customer, interestingly enough, this is going to be a good test for us because it's not got the proper R600 on. This is something that's made up from parts from VW and some other bits and pieces, formerly known as the Pikey R600 in the industry, or in the car scene, or in the VAG scene, whatever you want to call it. It didn't have a muffler delete, so in the interest of testing how this fares compared to our usual kit, which uses the R600, the customer's going to fit our Forge muffler delete. We're going to run it up standard. Unfortunately, it's about 1,000,000 degrees in here today, but we're still going to try as best to put a good comparison together, because it'll be down slightly due to heat as stock, and then once we've tuned the vehicle, we'll then see the delta between the two. So even though we're not expecting huge peak figures today due to the temperature, it'll still be good to see the delta between the two, and then we can compare that to when we've done a hot test on an R600. So we're going to get Callum straight in here now. He's obviously already loaded it on the dyno because it's so efficient, and we're going to we'll run it up stock. Callum's done the standard runs on this car with the just hardware fitted. So as you can see behind me on the screen, it's warm in here today. I really need to sort of get that across, but it's still making more or less stock figures. So it's doing 267 wheel, no it's not, it's doing 268 wheel horsepower or at the hubs, and then 267 feet-pounds of torque. That's just with hardware. Bear in mind it is a little bit hot today, so it's not a fantastic test really, but we're trying to see what we can do by comparison. We've used VAGCOM to data log the vehicle to make sure that it's completely healthy before we increase anything and put our software on. Another thing that I wanted to touch on is that using the tool that we've got, VW do a lot of updates, software updates to DSG boxes, so TCU and ECU themselves. It's quite important that they fix a lot of bugs within the system. Before we flash over it, it's a part of our tool now allows us to update to the latest Volkswagen software before we actually start tuning the vehicle. So we do charge an extra £50 plus VAT for that, but what it allows us to do is they take a lot of bugs out in the background that we don't then need to mess around changing, so it brings it up to the latest Volkswagen spec, which essentially makes the job quicker and more effective. That sense, you end up getting a better end result. There's certain things in there which quite a lot of the tuners have found on the older software, like in first gear during a launch you'll blip the limiter slightly before it changes gear and stuff like that. That's all things that Volkswagen have sorted out, but you have to be on that new software for us to be able to tune onto that software, so to speak. So we now offer that as a service. It's £50 plus VAT before we start tuning the vehicle. So we are going to go ahead now and flash our ultimate stage 1 ECU and TCU onto this car, run it back up and see where we're at with this particular setup. Callum's in the background taking this car off the dyno. It's pulled some pretty astonishing figures given the heating here is currently at about 28 degrees, and that's obviously cooling down by the minute when you've not got the car running, and the fans have all turned off now, so we've blown most of the hot air out, but it's yeah, it's pulled really good figures. It's done 333 wheel horsepower or hub horsepower, however you want to look at it, and 360 feet-pounds of torque. So I mean, that's an amazing gain all the way across the graph. I've got the data logs here, which I've been through with Callum. We're more than happy with where it's at. It's all seems very safe. If anything, there's probably a little bit of room to turn it up, but we're just going to leave it as it is, because the customer isn't chasing peak figures. He just wants something that's going to be really good, safe and reliable. So we'll have a wander around and have a look at the graph. Right, so as we can see here on the dyno graph, this is the stock power, which is circa 268 at the wheels or the hubs, whichever way you want to look at it. And we've now got our ultimate stage 1 here as a delta between the two, because this has pulled 333. You're somewhere circa 70 wheel horsepower gain on a stage 1 file in 28 degrees of heat. That's a really good result, albeit there's a little bit of hardware on this car which is helping with its breathing mods, but generally speaking with an R600 I would see 340 wheel, and if it was a little bit colder I think we'd probably see even more. Again, on the torque you can see it comes up to 260 feet-pounds and then flat lines right across. It starts to fall away from about 4,500 RPM. Our torque line here is the best part of 100 feet-pounds more, holds it for longer all the way to the red line. So I mean, in reality this car is going to feel like it's completely different. This is how they should come out of the factory. So we're going to get it on the floor now, take it out, do some road logs just to ensure that the logs from the dyno match what the car does on the road, and then we'll let the customer have a drive and see what he thinks.